I'm Bill Brewster, and this is Drywall Techniques. This segment is Series 2, Drywall Taping and Finishing. Before we start, let's get familiar with the tools and the materials we'll be using on this project. We'll be using a tape reel with drywall paper tape, sanding sponge, a 6-inch knife, a 10-inch knife, a water sponge, and 220 screen. On our tape coat, we'll be using the Beadex Light taping compound. Taping mud has much more glue in it than regular all-purpose mud. It shrinks back more, but it also causes the drywall tape to bond much better. And even though the compound comes in the box as a pre-mixed, you want to be able to mix the mud to the proper consistency per application. So you have two methods of mixing mud at this point. You can use the old stomper situation, or you can use a 1/2-inch drill. At this point, you've dumped your box of taping mud into the bucket and you're ready to mix it. At this point, you might need to add a little bit more water to your taping compound to get your desired thickness, but this is pretty much the consistency that you would like to have for taping. At this point, fill your pan up with your taping mud. You have your 6-inch knife, and then put your tape reel on, and you have your tape. And now you're ready to start taping. Before you start taping, check your sheetrock. Make sure there's no loose paper or damaged board, which could blister out at a later date. Always do your butt joints first. Tape your butt joints, then you do your factory edges. You can apply the mud in such a manner on your knife and wipe that edge and apply. Or you can scoop out just one corner and apply it. Make sure there's no skips or little gaps in your mud whatsoever. It needs to be a constant flow even flow of mud, and then you're ready to apply your tape. And now you're ready to wipe it down. Wipe it tight enough, but not too terribly tight to wipe all the mud out of behind the tape. And now you're ready to tape the flats. With the factory edges, the taping compound and the paper tape will fall within a recess. So that allows you, with your additional coats of all-purpose mud, you'll be able to keep this factory recess edge as flat as possible. And remember, when you paper tape your angles, make sure you keep your mud as even as possible. Make sure there's no gaps or skips, no bare areas. When taping angles, it's much easier to crease the tape first before putting it into the corner. So make your crease at first and then pull. Be careful of getting paper cuts, but if you hold your hand just right, it creases right out. Then you install the paper tape into the angle. Make sure it's seated nice and squarely into your angle. And now you're ready to wipe the tape down. It works best if you start at the center of either the angle or the flat and work your way out. That way the tape doesn't have a tendency to ball up and wrinkle. So just wipe it one side. That will leave you with a nice, crisp, sharp corner for you to put your all-purpose mud over. At this time, we're going to install our tape-on corner bead. Tape-on corner bead is much better than the nail-on corner bead. It's a constant bead along the paper edge, reinforced with metal, just like regular corner bead. Corner bead is nailed down about every 8 inches, which means you have gaps. This is a constant bead all the way down. When installing tape-on corner bead, it is not necessary to tape the edge of the corner as it was done in a previous spire taping by the previous owner. So we're ready to apply mud to the corner and install our corner bead. Remember to keep the coat as even and consistent as possible. Make sure there's no gaps on the corners or little pockets of air. Now you're ready to install the corner bead. It's always a good practice to flare the paper before installing it. Make sure your corners match up nicely. Nice smooth transition in your corners. And press down on the edges of the bead. Now you're ready to wipe it down. When wiping down a corner bead, make sure you wipe more than just the paper itself. Keep the tip of your knife on this bead right here. That way it ensures that you're not wiping too much mud out from underneath the corner bead. Sometimes you can adjust the corner bead by rocking it back and forth in case there's some kind of roll in the wall. But always check it to make sure that the metal takes a little bit of a fill coat on either side. We've just finished our tape coat. Now we're ready to start our first fill coat. First thing we'll do is spot our screws. You can spot a screw by just hitting one spot at a time. Or if you would like, scoop the mud out like this, and then one stroke up and down. One stroke up, one down. It's very easy. Now we're ready to start coating the joints. You're going to want to coat your flats first, which is the factory recessed edge. As you can see, after the mud and tapes have been applied, you still have a little bit of a gap there, which will take 1, 2, or 3 coats if you're going smooth wall to fill. It's very key to make sure this stays as flat as possible, not dished or not crowned out. At this point, we've switched over to all-purpose compound. You can see the consistency of the mud that we'll be using today. It's not too thick, it's not too terribly heavy, it's not runny. It's not as thin as the taping mud we were using earlier. So at this point, scoop out, clean off your edge just a little bit. Helps you with a little bit of control. You might even want to try to do the same to the other side. That way possibly less mud ends up on the floor. Now when applying your mud, you'll start off with a 10-inch knife. Apply your mud evenly and consistently. Then you feather it by applying pressure one side of your knife, then the other. So feather your joint. Feather the bottom part. Then down the center. It fills the factory recess. And it's always good to double check to make sure it took enough fill. Now we're ready to coat the butt joint. Normally when you come to a butt joint like this, you would have to coat it out quite far, which would cause a bit of a lump in the wall to be able to hide this joint. But covered in our Series 1 pre-rock and drywall installation, we show you how to take care of this problem and cause this butt joint to become a recessed joint. It allows you to have a much flatter and straighter wall. Now with coating this butt joint, if you're not comfortable using a drywall knife to fill in the recess, you can always use a straight edge, piece of track, a piece of lumber that's straight, or a straight edge of some sort. Pre-fill the joint area and then darby it flat. It works best when you allow your flats, top and bottom, to dry thoroughly. That way you pull all the way through. Now you're ready to coat the angles out. You'll be using a 6-inch knife, and the same principles apply. Nice steady strokes, even strokes. Feather your edge. And if it takes you a couple of times to do it, that's fine too. clean your edge. There you go. Once this side of the angle dries, coat the other side. If you're going to be texturing, one coat per side. A sand out would be usually good enough for a medium to a heavy texture. If you're going smooth wall, it will take 2 coats per side. The second coat will be a very tight skim to take care of imperfections, scratches, or any kind of air bubbles. And make sure you alternate. Coat one side, let it dry. Coat the other side of the angle, let it dry. Sand both sides. Then coat one side, let it dry, then coat the opposite side. It should give you a nice, crisp, finished product. At this point, you're ready to coat out your corner bead. Use your 10-inch knife, and possibly a bucket if you need to use it to reach it. Nice even coats. Feather the edge. Now fill the bottom. It works well if you take a knifeful, apply it to the bottom, and rub it in, wipe it in, and push it in the opposite direction a little ways. Slightly push away from you. Lessens the chance that you'll get a face full of mud. Always make sure your corners here as well as here are all taped prior to coating. If not, it will crack. Wipe it down nice and evenly. Then clean your corner bead. To get your corner bead to the finished stage, it will take 3 coats. 2 fill coats with a 10-inch knife, and a final skim coat with a 12-inch knife. Well, we have our project up to its finished coat. We have 3 coats on the flats, we have 4 coats on the screws, being the last coat being a full 6 inches wide. And now we're ready to finish sand. First thing we're going to do to finish sand is to pole sand the walls with 220 screen that has been wore out thoroughly, so all the edges and excessive grit is off of it. Using your light in a stationary manner, illuminating the wall, allows you to see where to sand. Once you have things pole sanded out, now you're ready to do the final sand, detailed sanding with your sanding sponge and actually holding a light. You want to make sure you don't shine the light directly at the wall. All that will do is flood the wall out with light. You won't see any imperfections whatsoever. Holding the light down, shining up the wall or across the wall or down will allow you to see all the imperfections you need to take care of. And yes, it's a good idea to wear a face mask at this point. But I'm just about done. Now that you're finished sanding, use your water sponge, dampen it, and go along the perimeters. Around your nail tracks, not over them. Around the perimeters, the edges of the mud joints. It helps lay down all the fuzzed up paper from sanding and helps blend the mud into your sheetrock paper. It gives you a much cleaner, smoother look. Well, we're at the end of our project, so let's recap what we've learned. Prepping sheetrock before taping, mixing your taping compound, applying your taping compound on the wall evenly, taping your butt joints first, creasing your drywall tape before inserting it into the corner, installing your tape-on corner bead and how it's better than nail-on corner bead. When you're coating your flats, check it with your knife to make sure that it's not hollow or crowned. How many coats to apply to your job. Finish sanding using your light with a fine, extra fine sanding sponge and water sponging your finished product. Well, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Drywall Technique.